Angie Kent, welcome to the Stellar Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a busy few years for you.
It has.
But I think I want to start by time traveling. Let's go back to the mid-2010s. You were a support worker and a marketing manager in 2015 when you joined the cast of Gogglebox Australia, which I think is how many of us came to know who you were in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
What compelled you to give that a go?
Oh my gosh, honestly, so Evie, who I was doing Gogglebox with, one of her best friends at the time was a post-producer for Animal Shine, and he heard the casting call about any outrageous people that have an opinion and love to watch TV, and he's like, do I ever? And at the time, Evie and I were living with our housemate, Tom. He's not long ago passed away, Down syndrome and type 1 diabetes. So we were kind of like his housemates, but also obviously carers in a sense as well because of his diabetes mostly. And he sent through this video of the three of us. Unfortunately, Tom wasn't able to be a part of the show just because he was quite hard to understand and he would have been like, I'm not watching this shit. But yeah, they just asked us to audition and we were like, oh, this sounds rubbish. And we just kept going for it because we're like, why not? We kept getting through the audition and then the audition process and then we got it and we were like, oh, well, we may as well give it a go. Probably won't do well. And what is it, like 11 years later and that show's still on and it's still thriving. So I'm so glad we did it because it was such a blessing.
And you were on the show for a few years and that, of course, opened up several doors for you in television. You ended up appearing on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. You were the Bachelorette. You did a couple of seasons of Dancing with the Stars. You were on Space Invaders for several years. From where you sit now, do you recognize the young woman who was on all of those shows?
I do and I don't. I recognize her because it's obviously me. It's just a 11-year younger version of me. I feel that I'm obviously in such a different place. From 25 to 36 is like leaps and bounds as a woman with hormones and life. And, I would never think 10, 11 years later I wouldn't, have my dad by my side or would have lost Tom, who I lived with and shared all these Gogglebox moments with. Oh gosh, there's an endless amount of things I didn't think would happen, but there's also an endless amount of things that were so beautiful that happened. I never thought that I would be, I used to watch people be the Bachelorette or the Bachelor or be in the jungle and be like, I don't know how they do that. Or like imagine being, in that situation. That was never what I wanted for myself. I was always open to life and I wanted to do behind the scenes documentaries and, theater directing and all that stuff. So I kind of just thought, you know what, YOLO, I'm going to do it. But yeah, I do feel like I look back at that girl and I'm like, oh my God, you've got so much coming up, Ayo. And I would want to give, probably let myself be a little bit more like, woohoo. But you know what? I think I still did a lot of woohooing. Definitely feel different. I feel older and tired and sore.
When you think about that young woman, do you have any pieces of advice that you would go back and give to her if you could?
Oh my gosh, so much. I think that I would have started therapy by then, but I would probably more so just say, and I probably to myself now even off and on, do the best you can. Don't let other people's projections drown you out because at the end of the day, they're doing what they can from their level of consciousness. They're doing what they can from their own projections from their mum, their dad, society. I think I spent so much time trying to cater to everybody and worrying so much. And ultimately, that shit makes you sick. It creates illnesses inside of you, which I think a lot of people don't know. So I would just be focus on your health and yourself way more and stop burning yourself out for other people.
Do you have any interest or desire to return to the TV screen, or is that chapter of your life closed?
I never close anything like that. I just finished up on Space Invaders, which was 4 years of my life, traveling around Sydney, Melbourne. That's not coming back this year, which is probably blessings really, because given everything that's happened. I definitely never say never to anything. Obviously, these last few months, I definitely wouldn't have been able to probably
Yeah.
show up the best way for me or for anyone around me in terms of work. So yeah, I think just this healing space is nice. And then we'll see what the universe has in store, like I always do.
So, Angie, you mentioned showing up. I think you have more than shown up, and you've been
Oh,
very
thank you.
honest about the way that you've shown up. And I want to talk through a few things that have been going on in your life. And I'd like to start with your late father, Mark. Now, I know
Mm-hmm.
you were very close. And in 2020, when you returned to your family home on the Sunshine Coast from Sydney during a break in the pandemic, your parents told you that Mark had been diagnosed with a rare form of blood cancer, which I understand is
Mm-hmm.
the same cancer that took your grandfather's life when you were 11. Can you walk me through that moment when they told you?
Yeah. I I was obviously shocked because the world was already so hard to navigate, right? Like the pandemic, and when were the borders between Queensland and New South Wales going to open? I was going through a breakup at the time as well with my partner from Bachelorette. So there was like so much to navigate. Got home, mum and dad waited for me to get home to tell me. Nothing really started straight away. The weird thing with blood cancer is like they want you to get worse in a sense before you can get better. So before you can do chemo, before you can do a bone marrow transplant, it's one of those things that, well, number one, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, but it's just such a hard one to navigate because it's blood. Like it's your
Yeah.
whole being, right? Like you can't just treat an area. My pa, actually, my mum's dad, he passed of leukemia. So ultimately, at the end, dad did have leukemia, but he had a certain type of blood cancer, and then the infections that he kept getting ultimately killed him as well. It's just such a nasty disease. Like there's so many considering factors with blood cancer. It's like people just think, there's one way to pass, but there's just so many ways, and it's generally very grueling and just horrible to watch.
So from that moment, did you end up staying at the family home?
No, because he hadn't started chemo or anything like that yet. I think I was home for a while, and then I went back to Sydney, back to Queensland, for off and on for ages. And then when he started chemo, I'm always backwards and forwards. Like I'm based in Tamborine Mountain. I own a place there, but I often am in Sydney most of the year for work, and then I always come home to my family. But at that time, no, I think I was bouncing in and out as much as I could with the borders. And then when dad started chemo, I remember taking him off and on. But ultimately, like at that time, my mum was just always has been his main carer. And then over this last year or so was when I definitely was like, well, since the bone marrow transplant, actually, I've been, like right by their side as much as I can.
Are you comfortable sharing when his health really started to decline?
I mean, obviously it's been a battle to watch him for the last 3 years, but he was such a weapon and a cockroach in a way that he just kept bouncing back. Like one of the doctors was like, "You're my little nine life. Like you're like a cat. You just like, you always," because he was so fit and so, he wasn't the perfect patient. He was a damn rebel. Like he would want to do what he wanted to do, but he was so fit and healthy in that sense that you kind of just, and he was like a, caged lion. Like you couldn't keep him still until he physically couldn't keep still. But it was probably the first infection he got at the end of 2025 that slowed him down. He got an infection in his leg, his foot, and then that came back again this year. And then he got that really took him out. And then he fell over and got a fungus infection. So on top of the infectious disease team, the hematologist team, then a fungus, he really just didn't. The universe was just like, I'm throwing everything at you now. And ultimately, that won.
You mentioned that your mom was his carer, but then you also joined up with her and became his carer as well. What did that involve? What did that look like for you?
I just finished Space Invaders filming in Sydney and then came back to the coast, Sunshine Coast, and then Brisbane. We moved for dad's bone marrow transplant, and I lived with mum and dad full time, just so mum would have support too, because she had to give up her home, my brother who's here all the time that lives with them, you know, our dog that was alive at the time that got like there was so much going on. And I was like, I need to be there for my mum. We had an auntie come stay with my brother. That was hard going in and seeing my dad that's always been so like he's a huge man, you know, big and fit, just like slowly deteriorate, you know, lost all his hair, tubes in and out, never knowing if he was going to even be able to receive that, you know, bone marrow transplant, graft versus host. Sometimes the new blood goes in and that body just rejects it. He's accepted it for a while, but it was a long slog. Like watching anyone with bone marrow transplant is you never know what's going to happen. And then these last few months, I've pretty much, just been, I think I've had 1 or 2 weeks back at my place because dad just kept ending up back in hospital and then, just visiting him every day. Like he just sat in a room, you know, like it was a lot to watch. And I don't think people really understand unless they've been in it and then watch someone go into ICU and palliative care and all the magical work those nurses and doctors do. Like they're the real heroes of the world. But it was horrible. It was really horrible.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank
Did you have an opportunity during your time with him to have important conversations? And what did that experience teach you about yourself?
You know what? I didn't. That's one of the hardest parts. My dad, because he was so sick for so long, but kept bouncing back and they kept kind of letting us feel like he was going to bounce back. He was a big believer in as soon as I think I'm sick or I'm going to die, that's when it's all over. So he never let us talk about it. And he kept saying, let me stay in my lane. And then we were told the day before he was still fighting the antibiotics and the infection. And then his main doctor kind of came in the next day and just said, no, there's nothing else we can do. And we were just really shocked, obviously. And then he was put on morphine and then he couldn't really talk. So we didn't get to have those big conversations that I wished we did, but I respected his wishes enough to let him feel that he was going to keep going. And
look, you've been so open and so honest and so raw about the journey that you went on with him. But in the midst of all of this, you've been grappling with some other things. You were obviously caring for your father at a time when you were also beginning your IVF journey and having decided to become a single mother by choice. Can you talk to me a bit about what drove that decision?
I've always wanted to be a mum. I didn't really ever see how that would show up for me. I just knew that was what I wanted. And I never really felt the need to have, I had to have a partner to have a kid. Obviously, that would be great for some, you know what, to be honest, I don't even think it would be that great for me. I've always wanted to have my first kid on my own. Let's just say that. And then afterwards, I'm open. But I was just having nobody come in and mess up my family. Even though my family and I are so close, that doesn't mean we're not toxic. I've had to navigate so much stuff with my family, right? Like a lot of families. And I've been hurt a lot in my life that I was like, nah, having a baby on my own, working on all of this. No one else can F the baby up. If it's, it's just me that's going to do that, and we'll work on that together. Which I'm hoping I won't, but no one's perfect. So I was just like, you know what? I was always going to freeze my eggs, and then Big Miracles kind of came to me, which is the docu series about, watching people navigate fertility on Channel 9. And they were like, we want to, if Angie wants to freeze her eggs, can we follow that journey? And I was like, yeah, but I want embryos. And they were like, sure, no, we don't have that happening right now. And I just thought it was such divine timing, right? Because I always wanted to do it, money, traveling, And it was just divine timing, and I did it, and I'm so glad I did. I was planning on having my embryo transfer because I had a huge surgery in February before my 36th birthday. Laparoscopy, very extensive. All my organs were stuck together. I wouldn't have been able to carry a child. So I'm so blessed I had that surgery. And then obviously my dad got so sick. I put that on hold. And then the day I found out my embryos were coming from Sydney to Brisbane, was the same day I found out my dad went into palliative care. And I just thought, look, I'm familiar with the universe having like a really wicked sense of humor and really just showing me what life's all about, good and bad. But in that moment, I was just like, that's a bit gross. Thanks for that. Like, why that exact day? Look, I'll never know. There's worse out there for sure. But it just felt like my whole world was just like stamped on.
Yeah.
So that's been a hard one to surrender to. I'm still really angry. Grief makes you really angry, I've noticed. Like, I've been furious a lot since Dad's passing, just trying to understand life, really.
Have you been able to get comfortable with that fury?
Off and on, yes. I think normally I'd make heaps of excuses for it and try to pardon myself and apologize to people, but I'm hoping maybe I will get over this, you know. I mean, I kind of like it because I've always been such a people pleaser, but I just don't care if you don't like how I'm showing up right now. I don't care if my grief offends you. I don't care if I don't know how to, you know, navigate my emotions. The worst that my biggest fear is losing my parents. You know, that's happening on top of my whole body turning on me, putting my baby on hold, navigating my brother and his health. Like, I'm doing the best I can. And if that's not good enough for people, well, see yourself out, darling.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll be back, but give me a freaking minute, people.
Of course. I think you've more than earned it. You know, I wanted to ask about the feedback that you've gotten about being public and saying you want to be a single mother by choice. And I would presume it ranged from fully supportive to critical. I think there was a man who asked you to, quote, back off the single mom content at one point even. Were you prepared for sort of that range of reactions from people?
Yeah. If anything, probably worse than what I caught. I think because I go in so vulnerable, and I understand I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine. I wouldn't want to be honest. Yeah. But I think because I go in and I'm not like, men suck and this is why I'm doing it, although sometimes I think that a little bit. It's not because of that. It's because of a multitude of reasons, obviously. Health, mate, I'm on my side. I'm not a spring chicken anymore in the eyes of the biological clock. But I did think I have copped quite a bit off and on. But I think because I've had 10, 11 years practice now that I don't lose sleep over it. Like, I used to get so angry that I would like really just react on a comment. But now I kind of always try to respond in a place of kind of like educate, not hate, because people are only kind of doing that because it must be stemming from their own fear of something, right? I feel people generally aren't like massive assholes. They something's happened to them, but that's also probably me always wanting to see the best to make them be really yucky, because I'm not perfect. So I always try to feel like, where can I see why they think this? But then other times people are just really gross about it and think, you know, you asked for this and don't whinge. You need a man to help you. And I'm like, well, I never said it was going to be easy. I can still whinge. Just because I made a choice doesn't mean I can't whinge about it. It's going to be hard.
Of course.
And I know that. It's going to be friggin' hard.
Yeah, of course. Do you think there is any sort of inherent judgment around the term single mother by choice? Or do you think it accurately captures your decision to have a baby on your own terms?
I know with some women or, you know, people that are wanting to be a parent don't like that term. It doesn't bother me because it is a single or solo. I think they're like solo mother, not single mother, like solo mother by choice. Well, it is. Like, I am wanting to be a solo parent by choice. So that term doesn't really offend me. I just think if you don't like it, don't use it. But no, I think it kind of describes perfectly what I'm doing. I want to be a mama and I'm doing it on my own and never know what the future has in store later.
But I think IVF is about so much more than just, quote unquote, I'm trying to become pregnant. You know, it's tied up in society's expectations of women. It's tied up in women's expectations of themselves. It's tied up in the so-called right and wrong ways to become a mother, the right and wrong ages at which you should become a mother. it's tied up in women's self-worth. It's tied up in men's self-worth. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's just so many talking points and so many conversations that still get swept under the rug, are still considered taboo.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's so difficult for people to be open and honest about what I think is essentially the most elemental of things, which is the process of creating and bringing new life into the world?
Oh, it's wild to me. I did my IVF journey through IVF Australia, and that was through Big Miracles, like I mentioned. And then we kind of like kept the conversation going, and they see how much I'm always talking about, fertility or women's health or, being a solo mother by choice. And I was like, let's have these conversations. So I'm working on this project called the F Chat with IVF Australia. So I'm sitting around hosting a bunch of people, doctors and people, everyday people like me. And the fact that I got to do that was amazing. And having these conversations was so wild because so many people wanted to have them, whether it was the 20-year-old gay guy or the 25-year-old straight guy that's single or the 30-year-old woman that's, I'm not sure where, like, should I freeze my eggs, but I want a partner. It's like everybody wants to have the conversations, but we're also frightened because men have kind of always been like, ooh, that's a you problem. And women have gone, let's just like not share it because we don't want it to be, weird out the dudes. But it's like ultimately, we've all come from the same space,
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So why would you not want to know, even if you don't want kids, why would you not want to know what you put your pee-pee in? And why would the woman not want to know what? It just blows my mind. But the more comfortable and safe you are around it. Like, I was really jokey, even though I've had a lot of trauma around fertility and my own health. I just made it so casual in the sense that then they could go, okay, I'm not going to get judged to ask this question. And then it was just like, why are we not talking about this like when we go to the doctor when we have a cold? It's like legit, it's our bodies. I don't understand why there's so much fear, but I do understand it, but I'm like, how can we change this?
I'm just hazarding a guess here. It's sort of, look, it's tied up in our sexual health too, right? And there are plenty of things that we don't want to talk about when it comes to sex. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to the parts that sex involves, it's almost like doubled.
Yes, that's so true. And I feel like in health, we were always kind of taught like how to not fall pregnant, right? I was brought up really religious. It's like, well, there's no abortion, so you have to have that baby. So we were so frightened. And it was also like, hey, God can see you if you're having sex and you're out of wedlock. Like, it's just wild. I think there's a lot of, that's why I say I do understand why we're so scared, because there's so much conditioning and fear of God in us, or fear of whatever the boomers put in us. But that's why it's so important to start unlearning, because it doesn't have to be fearful. Everyone's doing it anyway. So why aren't we talking about it?
Yeah. And all of it's messy.
Sex
is messy. Pregnancy is messy. Childbirth is messy. And so these conversations can be messy too. It's okay, right?
Yes. And that's why we need to sit in our discomfort, because life is messy. Gosh, I would like to meet somebody that doesn't know messiness. Like, I would be like, holy moly. Either ignorance is bliss or you are one blessed person, right? Like, life is messy. So why are we like shying away from each other and not like holding each other in these spaces of life's roller coaster of sex, death, loss, love? Like, we all experience it. So why aren't we talking about it more?
Yeah. I know that you had hoped that your father would be the key male figure in your child's life, which is now not possible. But if you become a mother, what would you want your child to know about your father? What would you tell them about him?
Oh my God, that's such a beautiful question. Well, they're always going to know, because we never stop talking about him. And, we're in this house here, everything. We haven't even touched his things. I'm looking at his shoes right now. I didn't even notice that. It will be his humor. Even though he could be so tough and very impatient, he accepted anyone. Like, he loved my housemate and best friend Tom with Down syndrome. My brother is on the spectrum and came out gay very young. And and my brother would wear all my dancing costumes, and my dad's this big Aussie bloke, right? And he'd come home from work and he'd walk in and Josh would be in my little boots and my little, Kylie Minogue pants, and he'd go, "Sexy boots, brother," and then just keep walking. Like, he never had, or he'd go, "Oh, where'd you get that from? Oh, good work." Like, he just never had this judgment. So I'd want my baby to know, like, there'd be no judgment, whatever they want to be, or they want to wear dresses. If they want to play football, please don't play football. My dad would love that, but please don't. Just kidding. Just like how accepting he is and how freaking funny and generous. But please, child, don't be a rebel like your pop, because I've had enough of that.
Well, he sounds like a dead set legend. Back to IVF, I wanted to ask you this as well. Aside from grappling with all the work and the money that goes into IVF, you have also dealt with various health issues over the years. Endometriosis, interstitial cystitis, polycystic ovary syndrome, adenomyosis. You've also talked about being diagnosed with ADHD. These aren't just physical issues. These are also taxing on your mental health, right? And then to be expected to show up for somebody else, to be there and care for them as they're declining, was a battle all its own. Where and how did you find moments of refuge and moments to yourself? Who did you lean on for support?
Oh gosh. I think I'm realizing more and more that I haven't really, unless it's paid support from my amazing practitioners. I have the best team that just like have become family in a way too, because they've just supported me so much in the unknown of my health. I really, which is weird because I publicly share it because I know that feeling of not knowing who to talk to. So many people in my life, like, God love them, they're not to know, they haven't experienced it. But I do feel because they haven't, they don't necessarily know how to show up. And then that comes with its own sense of my resentment. And I didn't want that if I'm going to come out of this haze and look back and be like, oh, shit, like, they don't know. So I'm trying to hold space for the fact that I probably don't openly lean on people enough, but also knowing that, I probably should have. I think I was focused so much on making it that little bit easier for my mum because that's her world. And then, I think if I felt into it too much, I would have been really sick. And I battled so much in my life with navigating my mental health and physical health. I was like, I can't do that right now. I think now I'll start working on leaning on people more and getting my own help. But no one really. I think my dog. And I did talk to my friends, but not enough. I didn't talk to them enough because what do you say,
It's wild though, isn't it? It's wild when you're in a bit of an abyss or you're going through something difficult, and difficult is on a spectrum, but difficult is difficult no matter what it is.
Exactly,
and it's wild how easy it can be to shut yourself down and to shut yourself off and to say, you know what, it's actually easier for me not to open up. And then in hindsight, you look back and you think, what the hell was I thinking? And, you mentioned resentment because you can think at the start of, let's say, a bad situation that you've got no resentment towards the thing or the people, right? But resentment's funny because I feel like it has a way of just creeping up, right? One step at a time. And then before you know it, it's at the top of the stairwell and it's huge and it's overwhelming you. And you're thinking, I am so bloody resentful right now of all of you. And in a lot of ways, you realize it can sometimes be your own fault.
Definitely. I do feel that I'm self-aware enough to know when I am like a big factor in things. But when you're navigating grief and you've always overanalyzed yourself and how you can be better and not necessarily met with that same kind of, I guess process, everybody's at their own stage of how they want to heal and do the work. That right now I am trying really hard to just let myself feel. And then if I need to go back in time and go, look, I was just doing the best I can, I will. But you're right, resentment does kind of, you feel like a bit of a victim, but you don't want to. So I, instead of going off crazy, shut down, lock myself in a room, mask, because I have been diagnosed with ADHD and, well, AUHD, I think it's called. So I'm a really good, like, when I'm on, and it's not fake, but it does use a lot of but a lot of my energy, right? So when I'm down, I'm like, I'm a full introvert. Like, don't talk to me. Don't look at me. I'm in my room. I'm watching my shows, me and my dog in the dark with a heat pack on. Like, I need that time. Otherwise, I just crash and burn out and probably self-sabotage, which I'm too old for that now. Like, come on, girl.
Yeah.
We know all the things we shouldn't do. And I still do them, especially recently. But I know that I'll get to a stage where I won't do that again.
Of course. I was thinking about an Instagram reel that you put up recently, and it was just a collection of videos of you just in everyday situations, you know, getting takeaway, just hanging out, doing things, looking good.
Yeah.
But the overlay on those videos, I'm grieving here. I'm grieving here. I'm grieving here. And I really found that quite compelling because I thought, you know, we often think of grief as one thing. Grief is a person dressed in black, sitting, crying. Yeah. That's it. But grief is there always. Grief is there when you have to do the things.
Yes. And grief comes before the person passes. Grief looks all different ways, how my life would have been, how my life could have been. I think we see it in the movies a lot, maybe, that it's like, oh, I'm sad, and they have this big life-changing experience. And, like, sure, that may come. It's still very soon since all these tragedies. But I'm like, grief is messy, and no one gives you a rule book, and we almost shy away from it in the Western world, which I hate. I wish it was normal to lay with the body, because I didn't want him to go away. I wanted to scream, cry over that body. I wanted to do all my witchy woo-woo shit, but I couldn't because I was in a hospital. And my mum was kind of like, what? But you don't know how you're going to show up when your dad dies in front of you. Not tragically, but just so horribly that you never would have imagined. Like, my whole body just did what a child, like a little girl, would do, right? And people don't know that until they experience it. And I just wish, well, I can blame myself for this too. Like, I guess I'm not sharing enough with my friends, but I feel safe to share it publicly because I have so many people that have reached out during that time being like, I wish I knew other people were going through this. I had my baby and my mum died, or I lost my mum and my brother didn't get help and he died. Like, all of these stories, I'm like, we need to help each other. Why are we suffering even more in silence? It's so sad. Yeah. I don't want that for people. I really don't, because it's horrible.
Another thing that you've been open about in the past several months is that you were trying to find help for your brother because he was battling alcohol addiction, I understand. You were very vocal about this sense of helplessness that you felt as you tried to find the right outlet for him. And you took to social media and you had several posts. I think, you stated that, quote, Australia's mental health and addiction services are failing us. That, quote, I feel like a salesperson pitching why my brother's life matters. You said you felt the process was almost like just trying to return a faulty item to the store or exchange an item at the store. You were running up against all sorts of non-answers and a lot of bureaucracy. Can you talk a bit about the frustrations that you were feeling and where you went with all of that?
I couldn't believe that how much of a process it was, right? Obviously, I've done the whole mental health plan and you get your sessions and you navigate when you've got stuff popping up for you, or, you do your little woo-woo healings, as some of us can do. But this was like past that. Like, we tried the therapy sessions. We tried the mental health plan. We tried the psychiatrist. We tried the medication. We tried the day programs. I think a lot of people, again, like grief, it looks a certain way. Addiction looks a certain way too. Because my brother is also on the spectrum. Back then, he was diagnosed really young, like 13 in the early 2000s it would have been. So back then it was called Asperger's or Asperger's. And that's what we kind of told everybody, but we don't use that term now. And he has a chromosome abnormality. So he was always kind of struggling with life's challenges, judgments, and then coming out, gay so young. And he always kind of struggled to find his feet. And I always, was his number one, like, fierce, like, if you mess with him, I know I'm only this big, but I got a big old mouth.
It's over.
It's over, Red Rover. I think I got that from my dad too, but he could back it up with the, whereas me, I'm just like a little, he could flick me away. So when I started to notice that he was numbing a lot more, which my whole family has done off and on, but we can kind of then show up and go to work. We won't go on a bender for 5 days. It was getting to the point where he wasn't him. And I was desperate for help, thinking, well, even though he can show up as an able body, he doesn't know how to protect himself. Even though he's a 30-year-old man, to me, he's got the mind of like an 18-year-old, but a young 18-year-old, and always lived with his mum and dad and probably has been babied. And I, had to advocate for him because he doesn't know what to say. He kind of looks at me, to talk. And this amount of, you go to the GP and then you get a referral and then they send you to here and then you need another referral because it needs to have the exact address and name of the doctor. So you're constantly calling people to save your brother's life and then met with, oh, no, sorry, we don't do that. I'm like, what, you to do what? Exactly what you're saying you should do, which is help somebody in need. We even have private health and we were getting met with like, no support, but you put all this money into getting support and then you're just turned away. This took me 6 months. He's finally receiving help. Thank God. Thank the universe. Thank my dad, maybe. I don't know. Thank me. We can just keep going. I don't know who to thank, but I'm just happy he's there. It's still early days.
Yeah.
I've done the part I can. It's up to him how he moves forward, and that is freaking petrifying. It is petrifying.
Why do you think it's so complex and so difficult? Have you gone searching for those answers? I mean, you've been a bit busy, so I don't blame you if you haven't, but
I have.
It is a bit gobsmacking to hear that.
It is. It is so gobsmacking. I think both a blessing and a curse of being, ADHD, autism, like low on the autism spectrum, but still I can channel when I want something, I will get it done. And I will not sleep, and it takes over my whole life. Whether that's watching Real Housewives on repeat or getting my brother the help, like I am on. And I shared it. I wasn't going to. My mum gets very funny about sharing certain things, given, I think it's that Catholic upbringing too, where it's everything has to be. And I was like, no, this is real life. My dad is gone now. I'm not losing my brother. This is my baby. He's always been my baby. I don't care. And I'm so glad I shared it. So many people have shared even more tragic, more horrific stories, and they don't have maybe even, like, I know what I'm saying too is in privilege, that they don't have the money to have their brother or sister or mum or dad on private health. They're just showing up at public hospitals and then, I don't know, either being turned away because there's not enough beds. I don't think it's the practitioners. I think a lot of them are so burnt out and I don't think they are supported. So therefore it comes across like they're like, no, can't do that. But it's the whole mental health system. They're not supporting their workers and they're not supporting the people. It starts from them. It's so hard to not get angry at the doctors or the staff that kind of dismiss you. But I think they're burnt out too.
Yeah.
I wish they were a bit nicer about it when you're in a crisis, but I guess people are just doing what they can.
Has this spurred anything in you to advocate further?
Yeah, definitely. I will never stop sharing anything that I experience in life that I feel like, I mean, I don't get my needs met attention-wise out of this. This is like tragic shit. I would love to rot in my room or be sent away myself on a lovely retreat where I can focus on my grief. But there's something in me that will just like never, ever stay quiet if it means one other person, two other people, whoever, don't have to, suffer in silence as long as like my family has or I have, or, I just think like be defined, be inspired by your experiences, not defined, because I've done that for too long. It just gets me nowhere.
You've said in the past that, quote, silence and politeness have not helped women ever. Has this always been your approach, or were those behaviors and that attitude the result of lessons that you had to learn the hard way?
Both. It's so bizarre because I was brought up really like the mum's the mum, the dad's the dad, be perfect little girly, do all the sports, school captain, but I would always be the person that would be like, you can't do that to them, and kind of not want anyone to be bullied or stick up for the kids at school that were different. Like always just kicking off about something. But I then kind of, as you get older, learn to be more quiet and make sure you're accepted by society and don't look to a certain way. So I kind of went through a stage where I probably, tried to be more quiet out of fear of judgment. And then as experiences kept happening, and I think being blessed enough to meet Evie, who I did Gogglebox with, she was so much older than me and so like fierce and funny. And I learned a lot from her that I kind of, was like, no, I want to still do what I do, but I need to learn doing that, but not burning out as much because it's there's a fine line and I haven't quite worked that out yet. So I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. I think it's my experiences, but I've always had something in me that just hates injustice. Like everyone deserves to be heard.
You have helped shepherd a life to its end. You've been trying to create a life, and you're working to help save a life all at once, all across the last few years. And you have continually forced yourself to show up. But I know that you've also spoken about eldest daughter syndrome, and you've also spoken about being, I had never heard this term before, a glass child. Can you talk a bit about those?
You know what? I learned about glass child whenever I posted that, and I'm going to say it was this year, but it could have been last year because everything has morphed into one this year. I learned it through my friend in Melbourne, Claire. She is a glass child, and she was telling me about how the oldest sibling, especially if you're a daughter, and obviously I can only speak as a daughter, the oldest daughter, you are often met with, you're the dummy child, of course, like let's just throw this around. And then you also have to be the role model for your siblings. And then if it comes with a sibling that is born unwell, your needs kind of go out the window and you are just that child's ride or die. And I feel like I probably would have chosen that anyway, given the person that I turned out. Well, I mean, I don't know, it's like nature versus nurture, isn't it? But I do feel like I had to be that, that savior, the first child that cops it all. And then my youngest got to run around and do whatever he wanted, whereas I was very punished. But I look back and I've had a lot of therapy, and I know that my parents were just trying to do what they could. Gosh, they're just babies having babies in the 90s. Ew. It's hard now and we know what to do, and people are still stuffing up. I probably will too. But the 90s, 80s, God, it was literally like, here's a kid, don't kill it. And they really tried, but they needed lots of help themselves. Let's just put it that way. And then that's kind of what the glass child and the first daughter cop. I don't know what it's like for the boys. Maybe it's a lot of pressure, but I feel like men are ultimately born men are going to hate this, but they are born privileged. Just like as a white woman, I am born privileged compared to other women. And I've learned that and I own it. So I don't understand. And I want to do better with that, right? Whereas I don't understand when you say that to a lot of men, not all men, they get real like, I've worked hard. I'm like, I'm not saying none, homie. But there's a privilege that comes with that. Right. And I don't know what it's like for, the first child as a guy, because I'm not one, but for a girl, it comes with a lot of unlearning. Let's just say that. Lots of unlearning.
Yeah, it's funny you mention the sort of cavalier approach to parenting back in the 80s and 90s. One of my earliest memories is sitting, on the armrest between the two front seats in the car.
Yeah.
Straddling the armrest while my parents were driving.
Yeah, no rules.
Which is
like
so unsafe.
Pre-seat belts,
and I'm thinking, that probably shouldn't have happened, but hey,
no way.
I'm here today talking to you, so it's all right.
You know what? I feel like it's given us character, right? Yeah, like we're a bit more grubby and sturdy and, what did someone call me, which I loved? Scrappy. And I was like, I'll take it. Because it is like we had to be like scrappy.
Scrappy's a great compliment. If somebody called me scrappy, I would be very proud because I don't think people think of me as scrappy. So I would take it.
Take it. Well, I took it. I definitely took it.
So obviously, everything you've gone through, you have, as I mentioned before, you've shared so much of it on your social media accounts. You've got more than 200,000 followers on Instagram. Audiences obviously crave authenticity. But the business side of social media sometimes doesn't know what to do with creators who are a bit messier or a bit less glam than they might want to be. And
Yeah.
when you chose to start really sharing these personal, vulnerable chapters of you and your family's life, did you have any hesitation about how it might affect your ability to, say, monetize the platform? Have you had any pushback from brands?
You know what? I don't ever really look at myself as an influencer because I think I was so blessed to start television when social media wasn't that big. And being on Gogglebox for so long, we weren't allowed to have a massive public profile. It was only when we left we could kind of lean into those opportunities. So I think I'm blessed in the sense that I've always just thought having a following, just for being me and working and sharing my love for whether it's animal rescue, women's health, people with a disability. I was just like, that's a tick. Now I've been blessed enough to work from 25 to 36 with television work, which is like, I don't know how that's going to show up now because television's a bit it. So I think maybe now I might feel that, but because I've had so much going on, I haven't really noticed. I think that if anything, it's probably getting more opportunities that may not be like an instant, cash flow of like just a tick. It's more stuff that's aligned with me, whether it is the IVF Australia stuff, whether it is, I don't know, being able to talk at a function for, IVF. I would rather that if it comes with, say, less money than just like promoting. Not that I've ever promoted, bathers popped in my head, but I've never promoted a bather in my life. But you know what I mean? Like, I haven't noticed it yet, but there's probably people that were like, oh, I missed when she just sat on the couch and said weird things and we could send her money for that. But I'm 36 now and I'm happy to grow with, life and share that because you can't, stay that age forever, can you?
Yeah, no. And look, what a life it's been so far.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm so blessed in that regard. Yeah.
So, well, I think last question, it's kind of the classic, what's ahead for you? What do you want the next year, 5 years, decade even to look like for Angie Kent?
Oh, goodness gracious. I think that I would, like you said, obviously pray that my body can carry my children, who knows, watch this space. I have, just kind of found my feet in this new life, new reality without my dad being that figure for me and the baby and my family, I guess. I would love to still share my experiences. I would love to keep talking about being a solo mother by choice if I'm blessed enough to be. In terms of like work-wise, I think I'm so focused right now on my healing and just making sure my family is here and we just grow and heal together from this, that I haven't got like a real passion. As long as it's something that I am true to myself and love, I'm excited and I'm always open to see what the universe has in store, and I'll just keep sharing and, doing the damn thing and hope that it all just falls into place. I think my family and I deserve just a little breather from hospitals and things for a minute, unless it's to do with bringing in a baby, and just get back to the basics of life. Like, just to be happy would be beautiful.
Well, Angie Kent, I hope when you do get to do the damn thing, you get to do it somewhere sunny and peaceful and calm. It's been a real pleasure to speak with you today. I really appreciate your generosity in opening up about all of the messy corners of your life. I think it's been, really admirable what you've been willing to put out there, and the way in which you've been honest about what's happened with you and what's happened with your family. And hopefully, you'll be coming out the other side stronger. I have no doubt.
Thank you so much. You're the best.